All right, so next we're going to jump into Illustrator and show you how to get these Illustrator files into Maya as 3D objects. Now, if you do want to use something that's included in like Adobe Typekit, as you saw before, it didn't work using the type tool. So basically what we can do is create them in Illustrator and then just convert them to a shape. So like, for example, this RD here, I just need to go to type, create outlines, and that turns it into a shape that I can then bring into Illustrator, or into Maya, sorry. So we've already created the dimension word at the bottom. So now I want to bring in these other guys into Maya. Now you'll notice that I have a little box down here. This is to keep everything in line. I want to bring these in as different sort of nodes, as different files, so I can manipulate them differently. With this guy activated, not really activated, but with this guy created, with this guy selected, whenever I import these, this will keep the registration right. So basically, whenever these come into Maya, it's going to always want to put the bottom left most point on the center of the grid. So with this guy all the way at the bottom left, it'll put him at the center of the grid, and then these should all kind of be in alignment with each other. So let's start with, we'll start with these little flourishes. So I'm going to just select those and hit Control C to copy, and then we'll jump into Maya, and I'll close my render view for a second. And what I want to do is go to polygons, and I want to click this SVG tool. When that happens, this big exclamation point will come up because we basically have nothing assigned to this yet. Now, you can import a file. I've noticed that it doesn't always work properly when you import SVG files. So the easiest way I've found to get these guys into Maya is to just copy them like I did, and then just click this paste button, and then they'll come right in there like that. So obviously these guys are not perfectly aligned with my text down here, and that's something that I'm not too concerned about at the moment. You'll notice that a lot of these settings are the same as what we're going to have under geometry. We have position, offset, and scale, so we can move these guys around a little bit. Put that back to 0, I think is what it was at. Yeah, 0 is fine. But we're going to jump to geometry first, and then we'll look at mesh settings. And resolution, again, is going to give us more resolution. We want to make sure we have deformable mesh on, because again, if I just do a quick Arnold render view of this, in this case it looks okay, but in most cases we're going to get some weird stuff that's messed up. So I do want to make sure I have deformable mesh on. And I'm going to go down to extrusion, and I basically want these guys to look round. So I'm going to knock my extrusion distance all the way down to something like that, because I just want these to look like neon lights, basically, is my idea. So then I can come down to bevel, and I want to do an inner bevel. We'll do front and back. I want it to be round. Let me get in close here to make sure it's doing what I want it to do. And turn off fractional offset. And things get way messed up whenever we do that. So I want to change my bevel offset. Bring that way down as much as I can until it looks round. And then I can come down to back bevel, and I could pretty much use the same settings. So what I can do is just round these, so 0.3. We'll make this 0.16, and 4 divisions is fine. We could probably do more than 4, make it look a little bit more round. And then back bevel, we'll do the same thing, turn off fractional offset. We had 0.3, 0.16, and 6. So 0.3 is fine, 0.16 for bevel, and then 6 for bevel divisions. So that's looking pretty good. I just need to tweak the extrude option, extrude offset, or actually we want to tweak the extrude distance. Not quite looking like tubes, so I'm going to need to probably mess with my bevel offset a little bit more, or my bevel distance. Bringing my bevel distance down. On both of those, we'll try 0.16 and 0.16. And then I think maybe I can just lower my extrude distance. It's at 0.1, but I can probably bring it down to like 0.05. And yeah, so now those are looking pretty round. So that's pretty much exactly what I was looking for there with those guys. We can just do a quick render of that to see how that looks. Looks fine. So next we'll bring in some of the other things. So jump back into Illustrator. We'll bring in first we'll bring in this sort of block, because basically my idea is to make it look like the word here is inside of this block of ice or something. So I'll select that and select my little block at the bottom, Control C, jump into Maya, create a new SVG tool, and we should probably start naming these. So I'll name this the block, and then just paste. So alignment's a little off, looks like. So we may, that may not have done what we want. I think in reality, this is a lot bigger. So our distance, basically we're going to need to scale up our little square here to match the size of the other square. So once we do that, just hit the R key to scale up. Once we get these sizes about the same, then our scale should be right over here. So I have that guy in there for now. I'm just going to move him back a little bit. And let's go ahead and name these our flourishes. And I'm going to speed up really quick and bring in all the other ones, and then I'll cut back down and we'll do some editing to them. All right, so I have all these guys in here. So the next thing I want to do is save my file. So I'm going to save scene as, I'm just going to save over a scene that I already have. So scene 2. And I'll also save my Illustrator file just in case. And so despite my best efforts, it doesn't look like these guys lined up perfectly. So, so I'm going to take a few seconds to just kind of move these around a little bit. Let's see if we compare. So if we compare this to, so this circle is about the same size as that circle. So we'll try to get these right so you can see that it's quite a bit smaller. So let's go ahead and scale up the 3 first. that looks about right. And now we can just, oops, I'm going to scale my background. And now I'm just going to select all of those guys and bring them down. Oops, I keep selecting my background and scaling it. So what I'm going to do, yeah, so we'll just select all of these guys and just bring them down so they're on top of that word dimension. And then I'll take our word dimension and try to line it up properly. Maybe this is where it'd be good to jump into a side view. Get that lined up. We can jump over to our dimension node and mess with our font sizing and bring that down. So it's about lined up. Sometimes you're going to have to tweak it by hand, so you see that it's not either going over or under. So let's try 12. Let's try 12.5. Too much. Let's try 12.1. Let's do 12.05. So that's about right. That's close enough for me. But we want to get it lined up with this guy too. So that's an easy change. Let's try 12.1 again. So close enough. Doesn't have to be too precise. Just so everything's sort of in the right place. All right, so now we can work on getting this sort of designed out. So the first thing we want to do is for each of these guys, we want to go in and change. Let's see, I can't remember what I named them. So these are going to be the block. So I want to go into geometry and increase its resolution so we get small curves there. And I want to go down to extrusion depth. We will increase that. I'm probably going to increase it and move it back a little bit. So let's increase it to about the same depth as our dimension letters. So something like that. And then we do want it to have an inner and outer bevel. We want it to be a deformable mesh, obviously. We can probably knock down the resolution on this. I'll leave it what it was. But we do want our inner bevel and outer bevel because we want this to be kind of a round shape. Edge. And then I'll just move that back for the time being. This next guy, we can make him, we want to give him better curve resolution. I think I'm going to leave this guy with no bevel, so make it easy, and turn on deformable mesh. and just knock down our extrude distance quite a bit so it's going to fit inside of that block. I'm getting some weird geometry happening here, and that's because of our extrude, or our bevel there is kind of overlapping. So I'm going to jump down to bevel. We can fix this two ways. We can fix this in our bevel settings, or we can try to fix it up here in our filter by distance settings. So if I increase that, at some point those guys should merge together. Try using that too. So that's not really working. So let's jump back down to our bevel and see if we can fix it that way. Because we're probably getting that same problem on every point. So that looks better now. Let's go in and look at our deformable mesh options, because we're getting some bunched up stuff over there. Basically want to tweak this until it looks okay. What happens when you get all these polygons bunched up, you get like this little visual error. We may not see that when we render, especially since we're going to have a like a glass shader on it. So yeah, we don't really see it when we render. We do see it a little bit, but maybe we can get away without editing that too much. And then we're going to do the 3. The 3 is could be a little narrower. We want to have deformable mesh on. We'll go to our extrude. Where's our extrusion? Drop our distance down on that a little bit. And then let's give it a cool looking bevel. So sometimes that happens where inner bevel is selected, but this still said outer bevel, so just need to change that. So maybe let's do a sort of convex bevel for this guy, and that is the back bevel. We want to do the front bevel. Sometimes you can get good results with leaving fractional offset on, but I've noticed that sometimes you don't. So let's turn that off, see what happens. I believe we can bump this up past 1 too, so we can try 1.5. Yeah, let's do 2's too much. It's 1.6. 1.5 looks like that's going to be it. That's what we're going to have to go with. Little thing messing up there, so I can try fixing that by doing that filter by distance. I can try filter by collinear points. I could even try bumping up the resolution, and that may get rid of that. But I think ultimately what we're going to need to do is edit our bevel again. To be kind of outrageous, but I think we're going to have to settle for not so outrageous. definitely wants to freak out on us. Also try a different curve. See if that will have any effect. I could also go in and fix this in geometry, and maybe I'll do that just to kind of show you that you can. You know, after I'm done, I can just fix this with just normal modeling sort of tools. I could also try, let's make it outrageous again. Could also try some of our deformable mesh settings. Out, may not, doesn't look like it. No. Doesn't look like that's going to help us. Let's look at what the other settings are so I can get it back. So 20, 50, 1, 20. So 20, 50, 1, 20. Right? That doesn't seem right. Yeah, for some reason it's turning off our bevel. So let me back up a little bit and see if I can fix this. So I'm just going to Control Z. Sometimes when you're experimenting, you know what the easiest thing to do, rather than fighting with it and figuring out what went wrong, is just to delete it, and then we can bring it back in. So just jump over to Illustrator, copy that, go over to our polygons, SVG tool. Name that and just paste it in. And then we can scale that up to the right size. Let's do that in our about right. So yeah, sometimes it's easier just to sort of start over. So solution, deformable mesh, and we'll just stick to a simple inner bevel. You know, something like this may be easier, may work out better if we try an outer bevel. So let's do that. Let's try an outer bevel instead. Now we're getting ridiculous. That's kind of what I was going for. But it also sizes up our geometry, so we have to kind of factor that in too. But that looks good. I can change the scale. We can scale this guy down a little bit to offset it. And then last we have this guy. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. So we'll just leave him the way he is until we get some shaders and stuff in here. And then we'll figure out what to do with that guy. So I will cover that. We'll start getting into some shading stuff in the next lesson. In the meantime, we will just do a render and see how this guy looks.